All right, IM1 classes. Today, we're going to be talking about how to write and graph inequalities. First thing we need to do is talk real quick about what an inequality is. An inequality is when you have two quantities kind of set up like an equation, but you're using one of these symbols, and instead of the two quantities being the same or equal, they are not the same, they are unequal. So there are two types of inequality signs. There's these that are just like the arrowheads without a line underneath them that mean less than or greater than. When you are graphing, you use an open circle. We'll talk about this more when we get to the graphing portion. These with the line underneath, it means less than or equal to, or greater than or equal to. When you're graphing, you use a closed circle. So these are used to show that quantities are not the same. So an example of with just straight numbers, how these symbols work, the symbol opens up towards the larger value. So 5 is larger than 3, right? So we would write it out like this, where it opens up, the open end. So when you're younger, in the earlier grades, they might teach you how that's like a Pac-Man, right? You can make it a Pac-Man eating the larger number, or they might say it's like a alligator, so they'll draw the symbol in some alligator teeth or whatever. I can't draw very good, but might say it's like an alligator, and they want the larger value. Whatever works for you, I don't care, as long as you understand this part, this is the part that's opened up, it opens up towards the larger value. So you can actually read this two different ways. You can read it right to left. This could say 3 is less than 5, or this could say reading right to left, or I said left right here. Going this way, it could say 5 is greater than 3. All you need to know is that this is telling us that 5 is the bigger value. All right, and then next, when we have a symbol in there, so when we have a variable, it's the same thing. The symbol, it still opens up towards the larger value. All right, so this is telling us that x is bigger than 7. It's bigger than or equal to 7. So you can read it as x is greater than or equal to 7 this way, or starting with the 7, you can read it as 7 is less than or equal to x. Doesn't matter how you think of it, you just need to remember the symbol opens up towards the larger value, and that's going to help you with the graphing portion. So this one, so to graph it, what you're going to do is put the appropriate, I need to move this down, I have some things in my way. So you're going to locate the number on the number line. So -6, it's down here on this side. You're going to put the appropriate circle, either open or closed, on the number line. Since this is has no line underneath it, it's an open circle. Then you're going to shade all possible values of x according to the inequality. So what that means, this is telling me that x is less than -6, so I need to shade all values less than -6, and those are going to be to the left. So it's just a little shading portion here. And that's it. All right. Over here, so next example, this says 4 is greater than x. It's a lot easier to read this with the x first. So think of it as x is less than 4. Just think about which one is x bigger or smaller. That's what you want to think, is x bigger or smaller. So I'm going to find the number at 4. Is x bigger or smaller? X is smaller, so I need to shade the values smaller than 4. It's going to be the values to the left. All right. We're just going to go through here. So here, P is greater than -3. So I'm going to find -3 on the number line. It's an open circle. And then you need to think, is P bigger or smaller than -3? P is bigger. So I'm going to shade the values bigger than -3. So that's all the values to the right. So here we have the example where it is flip-flopped. So we need to find the value 3. Remember, the symbol opens up towards the larger value. So this is telling us X is larger, so I need to shade the values larger than 3. That's going to be all these to this side here. All right. Next, do a few more. So K is less than or equal to 2. Find the number and put the appropriate dot. So since this has a line underneath it, so I'm going to put a circle at 2. Has a line underneath it means I need to shade it in, fill it in. K can be 2, so I'm going to shade it in. Now I need to shade the appropriate direction. You have to think, is K bigger or smaller than 2? K is smaller. Make sure you're looking at this. So I need to shade the values smaller or less than 2 here. So next one, -6. So you're going to find -6. Has a line underneath it, so I shade it in. Now you need to look at this. Is n bigger or smaller than -6? Right? This is opening up towards -6, so that means -6 is a larger value, so n is smaller, so that means I need to shade all values smaller than -6. That's the way. All right, last 2 examples of with the shading. So here, m is greater than or equal to 4. So I'm going to put a circle at 4, has a line underneath, so I need to shade it in. And then you need to think, is m bigger or smaller than 4? It's opening up towards m, so m is bigger than 4. So I'm going to shade the values larger than 4. That's to the right. So here, find -1. So p, this says -1 is less than or equal to p. So find -1. It has a line underneath it, so I'm going to shade it in. And then which is the larger value, or is p bigger or smaller? So this is opening up towards p, so that means p is -1. So I'm going to shade all the values that are bigger than -1, and that's everything to the right. All right, so now looking the other way, we're going to write an equation based on a given graph. So first thing I'm going to do with these is I'm going to put in a variable and the number of the endpoint. And now I just need to figure out what symbol to put in between. So look at the shading here. So are these values here, are they bigger or smaller than -1? All right, and these values represent x. So is x bigger or smaller than -1? These are all bigger, so x is bigger. It's an open circle, so I'm not going to put a line underneath the symbol. But since x is bigger, my symbol is going to open up towards x. And that's it. Let's look at the next example. So, first thing I'm going to put in x and the endpoint 0. So again, all these values here, that's what x is. So are these values bigger or smaller than 0? So is x bigger or smaller? These are smaller than 0, so I need to have the arrow pointing at 0 and opening up, or excuse me, pointing at x and opening up towards 0. That's it. Just 2 more. So again, these are the values of x. So I'm going to put an x and the endpoint. Since it's a shaded in circle, I'm going to have a line on the bottom of my symbol. So let's go ahead and put that in now. And then are these shaded values bigger or smaller than -4? These are all bigger. So I need to have the inequality opening up towards x, because x is bigger than -4. Last one. All right, so again, these shaded values represent X. So I'm going to put X and the endpoint. It's a shaded in circle, so I'm going to put a line underneath it. And these shaded in values, are they bigger or smaller than the endpoint? They are smaller. So that means my inequality needs to be pointing at X and opening up towards 0. That is it. Your assignment for today is in Delta Math, so make sure you log into Delta Math and complete the assignment. And we'll see you guys next time.